There's an ongoing debate fans have been trying to win, and until now, no one had yet to get a proper answer. Is K-pop becoming too westernized today? After the success BTS gained in America, I think it is important for everyone to know that the K-pop septet was actually not the first Korean act who tried to venture into the US music scene. In fact, there are quite a few, actually, like SM Entertainment's BOA and Rain, who were still under JYP back then, who tried to make a name of their own. The only difference is that BTS actually succeeded, not only to be noticed, but to establish and sustain their name in the competitive music industry of the West. But despite all of these, after their Billboard award, topping countless US charts, performing on American television, and their Grammy nomination, ARMYs are worried about one thing, which led them to question whether BTS is becoming too westernized for their liking. Well, this actually goes to K-pop in general. Okay, before we jump into this fiasco, let's discuss first how BTS came about in the American scene and opened the way for other K-pop acts to follow. Before BTS, debuting in America seems impossible that no one dared to expect, seeing a K-pop act performing in mainstream TVs in the US. But this was proven wrong when BTS first performed and became the first Korean boy band who made nationwide televised appearance at the Billboard Music Awards in 2017, and haven't slowed down ever since. Unlike other past K-pop groups who ventured into the US market, BTS stayed, and because of this, almost everyone considered them as the one who paved the way for other K-pop acts to make successful debuts in America. This is the very reason why every entertainment company today makes sure to let their group have a shot on a US debut. Just look at Blackpink, GOT7, 17, and even Super M trying their luck on the American stage. This is also the very reason why people start to notice how K-pop music is slowly becoming too westernized compared to older K-pop generations. Let's start by comparing said generation to the current. Back in the days when K-pop was still not as big as it is right now, first generation and second generation groups have this distinct sound that can only be associated with them. Listening to groups like TVXQ, Super Junior, and SHINee, this 3SM Entertainment boy group focused more on dancing and songs that sounded like a mix of J-pop and Western pop music. Basically a combination of everything, which is the very reason why it did not sound like a Korean version of anything else. Going back to BTS, despite being considered part of the third generation of K-pop, they made their debut with a rather familiar tune which people associated as homage to the earlier generation of Korean pop. That was how BTS established their genre. Even though they are more inclined to hip-hop, it was still very much similar to their sunbaes like BAP and Big Bang, so fans weren't very worried back then. This actually was true for the entirety of the earlier third generation K-pop group, and if you look back, groups who belonged to said generation like EXO, GOT7, Winner, and the like sounded rather similar to the generation before them. That was not until BTS started targeting the US market, which as a matter of fact, they successfully dominated. But ARMYs were not very happy. Even non-fans have their own opinion that the music BTS was producing was becoming more westernized one release after another. The speculation did come about until the group released their hit song, Dynamite. The funky disco song was first heard last August of 2020 and broke countless records since then. Despite how successful the song was, some still pointed out how the song was an embodiment of BTS's music, just like recent K-pop releases had too many similarities with Western music. This was mainly because most people noticed how it was a completely different sound compared to old BTS releases, which is the very reason why people assumed that slowly but surely the K-pop act is trying to sound like their Western counterparts. ARMYs were of course the first to defend the boys and said that it was only natural for the song to sound like such since it especially targets the US market, which brings me to the first few justifications on the sudden change in the sound of newer generation K-pop songs. They are trying to appeal to the West. As I mentioned earlier, BTS debut song No More Dream has very big similarities with earlier K-pop sound because they were appealing to the Korean audience. When BTS debuted in America, it was only natural for them to try and appeal to the West, which is, by the way, what other K-pop groups are doing nowadays. But it must be noted that appealing to the West is not, and will not be the same as being too Westernized. The two should not be lumped together, and honestly, both music are beautiful on their own accord, which is why I do not get why people are being so pressed about it. To elaborate on this even further, I take it that when you say Westernized, you mean that their music is becoming too much like American pop, and that they sing way too much in English, or they are collaborating way too much with Western artists. Just to break your bubble even further, K-pop has been heavily influenced by other music, including American pop, even before BTS. It is also important to point out that even back then, first and second generation K-pop groups had already been influenced with Western pop, and taking inspiration from Western music was in fact not a rare thing to do. To bring about another example, artists that were mentioned earlier like BOA and Rain inclined towards R&B even before they tried their fate in the US market. Many were also inspired by legends like Michael Jackson, and tried to incorporate this style with their music. So to say that newer breeds of K-pop acts are the first to become so much alike with the West is nothing but a false claim. Fans speculated that since K-pop had become huge and undeniably dominating even the US market, many people noticed every little thing these Korean artists do and use this against them, just so you try to shake them off their high horses. Moving on, let's have a specific example of the person of the biggest K-pop act today. Saying that BTS had become too Westernized bears no weight if you actually follow how BTS's go about their activities, may it be in Korea or overseas. Unlike Western artists, BTS still stick with common K-pop norms like doing comebacks. Unlike American singers, we all know that comebacks are a bigger thing in the K-pop scene. And BTS still live up to their K-pop roots by releasing teaser images, teaser videos, and coming up with unique concepts every single time. It is also worth mentioning that the 7 Boys are still very active with different variety shows, and regularly hold via live broadcasts for ARMYs to enjoy, which had never been done by any Western artist. Now on to the next. When almost everyone was claiming BTS's music sounded nothing like K-pop and accused the boys of forgetting their Korean roots, the septet answered the speculation the way only BTS can, by releasing another hit song, Idol. Unlike how people use the song as another evidence to support their claim that indeed the Korean group was becoming more similar to Western music, ARMY were firm to disagree. If you look closely, fans pointed out how the globe that was seen in the music video was first showing the location of North and South America. But in the end of the said MV, the globe turned and was now showing the location of Asia, which is very witty if you'd ask me. This, however, was only one of the many Korean references in the music video, and there was even more on the song itself. In the music video, the boys were seen wearing Korean traditional clothing, or was as popularly known as hanbok, out and about in the video. Phrases like olusu, which is like a Korean exclamation of some sort, is also present in the lyrics together with other symbols associated with the country. The ongoing debate regarding the matter is far from ending, and ARMYs will continue to support their beloved idols until then. Many even said that Westernized or not, at the end of the day, what really matters is despite the success and immeasurable amount of fame the 7 Boys achieved, they are still the very same hardworking and talented BTS everyone loved since day one. And just like any K-pop act trying to make their way towards the mainstream US scene, and support no matter what, and honestly, there's nothing more important than that. What do you guys think? Has BTS's music style changed drastically throughout the years? Do you think K-pop has become too Westernized in recent years? Don't hesitate and comment down below to let us know what you think. Also, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more. See you in the next video. Bye!